Hey guys, what is up, and I welcome you all to a new video. So a lot of you are aware that I do a top 5 series on my channel where I talk about, for instance, top 5 AP mids, top 5 underrated mids, top 5 assassins. And for a few times I have done top 5 ADCs or marksmen, and I felt like it was definitely time to update that list. So for those of you unaware, I do play ADC quite a lot. In fact, it is my second role next to mid. So if mid lane is ever taken, then the next role I would highly prefer is definitely the AD carry role. And I really think I'm not that bad at ADC, especially considering the fact that I really enjoy the playstyle. And on top of that, don't forget that this list and the champions I will be mentioning are my personal opinion that I usually mix between champions that I just simply like to play and would normally play in solo queue, and champions I feel like are just overall strong. So I do my very best to mix those two elements and make this top 5 list. But without any further ado, let's go to the number 5 spot. So to start things off, I decided to put Caitlyn in the number 5 spot. I really think this is a great spot for her because she is quite a strong AD carry. She's probably the safest AD carry to pick almost ever. I mean, she might not be the strongest AD carry nor having the highest potential to carry, but when it comes to just picking an AD carry that is safe, that is not really counterable either, Caitlyn is the way to go. And one of the main reasons why Caitlyn is so safe is because she has the strongest laning phase in the game, simply due to the fact that she has the highest auto attack range in the game at this level. Well, at least compared to the other ADCs. She also does have an escape ability with her E, and she can use this to go further in and go for the aggressive play. So whenever you're getting ganked or if the enemy team decides to go aggressive on you, I mean, you can always use this net, not only get away from them, but also slow them. Top Caitlyn players will also utilize her passive in the bottom lane since there are 2 very long brushes you can go into. And the bonus damage coming out of her passive is quite high, especially in the earlier stages of the game, so definitely use it to harass. And on top of that, if you were to critically strike while auto-attacking them with your passive ready to go, they're gonna take so much damage that I promise you most people won't even expect it. Then you have her W, the traps. Now these aren't the best thing in the world, but if you put them at the entrances of brushes, then the chances of people walking right into them as they're trying to go in that brush are quite high. Or something I highly recommend doing with her traps is that before a fight happens, place them all around the battlefield so that while the fight does happen, most likely enemy champions will walk right into them whether they're trying to chase or escape, because so much else will be going on at that point that they'll probably forget that trap even exists. And then the last thing that's so great about Caitlyn is the fact that you can do the E into the Q into the R animation combo, cancel the animations of some of these abilities, a lot of damage very quickly, and you get a bit of style points. The cons of Caitlyn, like I said, is that she doesn't have the carry potential like most other ADCs do because she doesn't have any type of steroid, something that gives her a huge burst of damage late game. Her ultimate is easily countered. I mean, if someone just walks right in front of it like a tank, which they usually will, then bam, your ultimate is not very useful. And the final thing is her traps. Like I said, they can be good, but they're also easily avoidable if you're playing against people that are simply just aware of their surroundings. But overall, Caitlyn is probably the safest pick for the AD carry role. Definitely pick her up. But let's move into the number 4 spot where I decided to put Jinx. Now I do get the feeling that some of you may get a little upset about this, thinking that Jinx deserves a higher spot. And I am not necessarily disagreeing with you. I mean, she is quite an amazing AD carry. But as a personal opinion, I think the 3 that I have listed in front of her are just simply better. Regardless, let's talk about Jinx. I mean, she has near perma 700 ranged auto attack. But this is assuming you can auto attack in her rocket form at rank 5 the whole time. But the fact that she has that high of range and the fact that also this auto attack does some splash damage is quite amazing. And as good as it is, if she were to switch to her other version of her Q, she gets an immense attack speed boost. Overall, the synergy between these 2 abilities I think is what makes Jinx just so darn strong. But luckily for Jinx, everything else in her kit is also very good. For instance, her passive giving her the reset that she needs to reposition herself in teamfights, whether it is to chase someone, to run away, or to get a quick tower and just simply make her escape. Her E ability can be used to chain CC with her support in the laning phase like a Leona or Morgana, or it can be used to throw down in a choke point, so a very tight area, and force people to run through them. Her W has really solid range and the damage is definitely nothing to laugh at, and on top of everything else it also slows. The only bad thing is the fact that it is a little difficult to land, and that is single target damage. And then you have her ultimate, which I really truthfully do think is one of the best ultimates an ADC can ask for. I mean, its global range, it does immense damage and only does more if they're even lower on HP, so it's an execute, and overall it just works so amazingly well in team fights. So Jinx has some single target damage with her W, CC control with her E, AoE damage with her Q and her ultimate, and she has a nice steroid buff that helps her scale into the late game with her Q. The cons of Jinx: no built-in escapes. I mean, yeah, her passive is definitely used as an escape if you possibly can get it off, but if someone were to gank you, if you don't get a kill or if you don't get a tower kill, well, you're not going to be able to run away very easily. She's also not the burstiest of ADCs. Now when I say bursty, I mean just simply use your abilities right then and there, even if they're at full HP, and just get them down to half in a matter of seconds. This really isn't necessarily a bad thing because she does have a lot of consistent damage coming out, and she has a lot of burst if they're below half HP thanks to her ultimate. And the final thing is she must manage her mana in the laning phase, because if you don't use it properly and you use a little too many rockets, you're gonna find yourself very low on mana. Overall, a very solid ADC. But let's make our way to the top 3 ADCs, where I'll first talk about Lucian. Now his playstyle in my books is probably number 1. I absolutely love playing this champion. I think he's just so much fun. And luckily for me, he's actually quite strong too. The first and main thing that comes to my mind when I think of Lucian is just how strong and effective his passive can be in the late game. I mean, an ADC that can auto attack twice off of one auto attack, who would not want that? So his kit does sort of revolve around utilizing his passive to its fullest. And with that being said, he has a lot of burst. Now he's someone, unlike Jinx, that can get someone from 100 to 50% HP very quickly. For instance, you can do that by using your E and W at the same time, auto attack, and then you can cancel the animation of your passive's auto attack into the Q and then auto attack them again. But speaking of his E ability, he does have a built-in dash so he can escape, go in for the play, and on top of everything else, every auto attack you do with your passive reduces the E's cooldown. Then you have probably his main ability, the Q, which is great in the laning phase because you can line it up on minions to still hit the champion. It's great in teamfights, being able to hit more than one person, and overall just a really nice skill that just for some reason feels extra rewarding when you hit someone. His ultimate is also very nice, being able to use it when you just simply cannot get in for the auto attack range, or you have to play it very safe because you're low on HP, but you still want to get some damage off. However, the cons of Lucian is the fact that he has very poor base auto attack range. His damage is not really as consistent as someone like a Jinx because he does rely on his spells quite a bit. And the damage on his passive early game is quite poor. I mean, it's not anything to be scared of. But regardless, Lucian is a formidable ADC that I personally just love playing. But moving into the number 2 spot, I'll have to put the much deserving Sivir. She's quite honestly arguably the number 1 ADC at the moment. But like I said, this list also includes a mix of my personal feelings to these ADCs and who I like to play and think is just strong, so I think someone else is even better. But regardless, Sivir having probably the best wave clear of any ADC, being able to throw your Q and just throw a couple W's in the wave, bam, it's all gone. I think she's the only ADC with an ultimate that can affect her whole team. And oh boy does it affect them in a good way. I mean, this ultimate can help your team in so many ways, whether it's to engage or disengage. And I also think you hit the person without hitting anyone else before them, so like minions or other champions, well, the damage on that initial Q is gonna be so high. And Sivir's spell shield is one of the few counters to one of the most annoying champions an ADC has to deal with, namely someone like a Zed ultimate or a Vi ultimate. Also being able to stop a lot of potential engage in the laning phase by the supports, like a Blitzcrank Q, maybe a Thresh Q, etc. Her W is an auto attack reset that synergizes well with her ultimate, and she's able to dish out a lot of damage in teamfights thanks to her Q and her W, being able to hit so many people at the same time. The cons of Sivir is the fact that she also has quite a poor base auto attack range next to Lucian, and she doesn't have any built-in hard escapes. So if someone gets right on top of her, it can be a little difficult to escape. But regardless, Sivir is arguably the strongest ADC right now. And finally, the number 1 spot, I'm deciding to give it to Tristana. Now, I honestly even thought Tristana was the number 1 strongest AD carry a few patches ago before they buffed her Q interacting with her E. But now that they buffed it and even gave her that bonus, I feel like she definitely deserves this spot. One thing I really like about the new Tristana ever since her rework is the fact that she got some much needed AoE damage with her E. And speaking of her E, at level 2, if you put both points into W and your E ability, you can do so much damage throwing on the E, auto attacking them 3 or 4 times, W on top of them for the bonus damage on your W, and then having the E explode, dealing almost half their HP. Even in Diamond Ranked, a lot of people still are not aware of this, and I just catch them off guard. She also has probably one of the best steroids that an ADC can ask for, with her Q ability giving her a huge amount of attack speed late game, or even mid game. And I truly think that her Q mixed with her passive is what makes her so darn strong late game. Speaking of her passive, she has the longest default range at level 18. She has a built-in escape with her W that can be used to go in as well, and it resets on kill. She has a pushback ultimate that makes it that much harder for a lot of people to get onto her and stick onto her, namely assassins. But it also has a lot of damage that can definitely be used in the burst with her W and her E. But the cons of Tristana is the fact that her E unfortunately will automatically push in the wave early game, which is not always something that you want. And there's really not a whole lot you can do about it. But other than that, I think Tristana is definitely deserving of a #1 spot. Huge damage, huge burst damage at level 2 as well, scales super strongly, and overall just a solid AD carry. But that is it for this top 5 video, guys. If you did enjoy it, throw in a like, tell me what you think of my list, check out my other videos as well, and also check out my sweet sponsor Alpha Draft, where you can make your own fantasy LCS teams to draft for the LCS. You can play for free and have a chance to win real money, or you can even put in a bit of your money for a chance to win a lot more in return. It's honestly a lot of fun and puts a lot more excitement into watching the LCS games. I highly recommend checking it out. I'll leave a link to it in the description below. But thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you for my next video. Peace.